You've heard that time flies when you're having fun, right? Well, my guest today was on the Home Improvement Report a year ago, almost to the day. He'll talk about an update to his website and a whole lot more. Hello, I'm your host, Gary Neidert. Welcome to today's episode where Kyle Cox, founder of Blindster.com, is my guest. It's been 1 year since Kyle was on the Home Improvement Report, and I know a lot has happened since we talked. Recently, he finished an update to his website, which was a big undertaking, and I'm looking forward to finding out how that went, along with everything else that's taken place since last October. So let's listen to the conversation I had with Kyle now. Kyle, welcome back to the Home Improvement Report.
Thank you, Gary. I'm glad to be back.
I'm glad you're here. You know, I was surprised when going through my notes that it was a year ago this month when we talked.
I know. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it either.
Yeah, time flies when we're having fun, right?
It does. Well, the whole pandemic, it's hard to believe it's been, I don't know. To me, anyway, it seems like, I don't know. I guess it seems like the pandemic, though, we've been in it for a lot longer, I think, than it is. Doesn't it to you? I mean, it's like, it's what, we're coming on 2 years now?
Yeah.
And, I'm like, it's been such a part of our lives for, it seems like a long time. Now it's thankfully getting back to normal, like you said, for me. I mean, pretty much I'd say for the most part, other than having to wear a mask when I went to Las Vegas last month, that I don't wear a mask on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So it's back to kind of normal. But
yeah,
I can't believe it's been a year.
I know. Man, it seems like so much has happened in a year, but yet it hasn't. So anyway, just rock along. Well, last year we talked about how you started in the window treatment industry in 1999, and you sold your business to Home Depot and then started Blindster. Now, for those listening that may not be familiar with your business, can you give a short summary of starting Blindster.com and leading up to today, 2-3 minutes or so, something like that?
I'll try. I tend to be long-winded. You may have to go back and edit it, but yeah.
That's okay.
So, I got out of college and went to work for Black & Decker, and I got a degree in marketing, went to work for Black & Decker in sales and marketing, and got moved around a lot and settled back in Houston, where I'm from, after about 5 years with the company, and always had kind of that entrepreneurial mind, and that I'd like to do my own thing. My dad did, and my uncle did, and I was always looking for that one, something to jump into. And the internet was exploding at the time. This was late '90s, so I was like, I got to get into this, and just kind of happened upon the window treatments. I didn't know anything about them. We ordered them from our house, and had a professional come in and do it when we moved back to Houston. Spent a lot of money. About 9 months later, we had a few more windows we needed to do. I went online because I was kind of an early adopter, I guess you could say, of the internet, of e-commerce. Ordered from a guy and just kind of realized, this is, this shipped direct from the factory. This guy didn't, he didn't handle the merchandise. Like, that's a perfect business for an internet. And his website was horrible. I mean, it's just a phone number, really, and prices on there. So I said, I think I could do that better. So learned as much as I could about the industry in a short period of time, launched a website after about a year, and kind of the rest is history. I guess that's the real abbreviated Reader's Digest version. So, yeah.
So it brings you up to today with Blindster.com. Yeah. That's cool.
Right. Yeah.
Well, when we talked last year, you said that you were going to be revamping the website that you had at that time. And let's kind of talk about that. What kind of updates were done to the website?
Well, we use, because of what we sell custom window treatments. So they're believe it or not, they're a very complex product. I mean, because there's actually, if you were to, which we did actually, if you were to have product SKUs for everything that we sell, there'd be tens of millions, because you have every quarter increment, every quarter size increment,
man.
from 12 inches wide to 120 inches wide, and then you have every length from 12 inches wide to, let's say, 100, depends on the product, 120. And then you've got all these different options: lift options, tilt options, motorized, cordless, your colors sometimes, and all these things can affect the price. And so it's a very complex product. So if I was going to launch an e-commerce business today, and 95% plus are going to use like a Shopify, a platform, an e-commerce. Have you heard of Shopify or Magento? So that's what a majority of businesses do, and that's what I would recommend if you're going to start an e-commerce business. It's a heck of a lot easier than trying to build your own custom platform, an e-commerce platform. So starting from scratch, very complex, very costly, and most of the time you don't need to do it. But for what we needed, we had to create a custom platform. So we had to start and create our own e-commerce platform. So it was a 2-year project. I've got 5 full-time developers and software engineers, and I put them to work we started kind of in the planning stages about 2.5 years ago, and then kind of got to working on it. We started out with two full-time software engineers, developers, and then that kind of morphed into to 6 we have now. And just
so
huge project.
These guys, did they work just for you? Or
just for me, yeah. They're employees.
Wow.
Employees. So people ask, it's an e-commerce business. Well, we don't have the type of product that you can just upload to a cart and buy it in a cart. If we did, like I said, you'd want to go with the Shopify. There's no sense in recreating the wheel. Shopify's got a great platform. Magento's got a great platform. The only disadvantage there is they own the code, and so you pay them a % of every sale. That's kind of, so as you grow, that number can be big. So if we were to give them a % of every sale, it would be a pretty penny, but, because we don't own the code and we're kind of subject to what they tell us, right? So that's the disadvantage you have on using a platform. But still, the cost of building a custom platform and the time devoted are crazy expensive. But we really didn't have a choice. I mean, those platforms they would allow us to sell what we want to sell, but not the way we want to sell it. Very, very, it'd have to be dumbed down substantially. How we wanted to, and how I envisioned the second version, what we called Blindster 2.0. The current site we had, or the old site we had, we launched in 2010, so it was time. We had the limitations of our old site from a mobile perspective, from a speed perspective, all different. The code was too old. So we needed to rebuild it. But
so had you done any kind of updates from that website that was 2010?
Oh yeah, many, all the time, all the time. But and it kind of becomes like a house of cards, right? You're bolting on these different things, and so that's why the code was such. We'd have one page. We had a page that had 10,000 lines of code on it, one page.
Wow.
So. And then you start making changes, and like that house of cards, you may change something that screws up everything else. Like I remember my developer that I used to use back in 2013, like he added a period like to one word of text or in a header or on the site, crashed the whole site.
Oh, man.
Like there's something real simple like that. So anyway, yeah, we started over from scratch, so we're able to really build it and put the collective thought of multiple people, including myself, into building it from the ground up, and make it completely scalable and elastic, what they call it, to where we'll never have to do what we did again. And
yeah. See, for whatever reason, I was thinking that you're just going to have to do a little bit of update to the original website, but you basically started over from scratch with this one. Is that right? Yeah.
I invested over $1 million in this website rebuild.
Wow, man.
So, and the funny thing is that, well, it's not funny, but most people that had most companies that of our size that have been around as long as we have, and you have organic traffic, right? You have a lot of that free. If Google, you type in blinds, then of course there's the ads that you pay for, but then there's the regular, what they call organic results, and we had a good amount of traffic from that. And when you rebuild your site and you relaunch it, you tell Google that, okay, you redirect to these new pages. You keep you keep as many of your URLs as you can the same, but which is directed. And you tell Google, but Google's algorithm is obviously, just because you say that was the old page and this is the new one, they're not going to take your word for it, right? They're gonna spider and crawl that site, and basically it kind of resets your relevance and takes you a long time to come back. Wow. So we took a huge hit in traffic, huge risk, which I'm known to take risks in my life. So this was definitely a huge risk, and we're only a month in, and we've seen a fairly substantial reduction in sales and traffic because of this. And I'm very confident we'll rebound. But yeah, this was a big, major deal. That's why it took 2 years. So yeah, it's a big, major deal.
What can you do to compensate for losing traction with Google, or is there anything except time?
There's really not, other than we're generating really good content now, more than we ever did before. And we have the ability to display it in a way we didn't before. Like, we have 360 degree, every one of our products now, you can see we have 3D rendering, 360 degree rendering. We have, we can change a color, it changes an actual photo on the site showing that color of a blind. So just Google, obviously, as far as becoming relevant to Google in their algorithm, if you have content that people like and they share and they use. So we have new content that Google, is in always spidering your site and seeing the interaction of people on your site. And so the content we have now, it'll take time to build up, but I'm very confident we'll build up even higher than we were before. And I think we didn't rank. The beauty of it, we weren't number one for the keyword blinds. If we were, then organically, then that would have been a real scary thing to do, right? Yeah. So, but we weren't on the first page for a lot of. We have real competitive. It's a real competitive industry, so I was comfortable, because if you're on page 2, or even if you're at the bottom of the first page, it's not that it's a little bit of traffic, but you need to be really in the top 5 to get traffic. So we weren't seeing an amount of traffic that I was worried about losing, and because I knew we would gain it back quickly, and we're coming back. It's a month and a week. It's 5 weeks in, and we're still down about 25% in traffic and 25% in revenue. But we started out, we were down about. I anticipated being down about 40%.
Oh wow!
For the first 2 to 3 weeks. And we ended up being down about 30, 35, 32%. And so we're kind of slowly climbing back up. So we did take a hit, but I was prepared for it. So. Did you
breathe a little sigh of relief that it wasn't 40?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And I had a little side bet with my developer, my CTO, my chief technology officer, and we bet a beer on how much it would go down and how long it would stay down. And actually, I think he won. That it didn't stay down as long. But even though the site's so much better and so much faster and so much better content, it just takes time. Google to work their magic or whatever they do, to say you're relevant, and to there's no tricks anymore. There used to be little tricks you could do, right, to trick Google into thinking you were relevant. And we never tried. I never did. They called that black hat, right? Have you heard that? Black hat versus white hat. And as the years progressed, there was lots of black hat. Like when the linking came in, where if you find a good company, you could buy and trade links. But Google's, there's a few thousand really smart people at Google, many thousands that, they've progressed over the last 20 years, and their algorithm's pretty solid. And they're going to find out if you're relevant or not, and display you. That's why they're by far the best search engine in the world, for sure. There's no.
There was a movie, I never did watch it, but it seemed like a line from it was "Don't mess with the Johann." Do you remember that?
No, I don't think so.
Anyway,
it's funny because I am a big movie line person. When you said that, I'm like, I'm going to get it, because for whatever reason, I don't remember much, but I can remember movie lines. But no, I don't remember that.
I never watched it, but for whatever reason, that sticks in my mind. But it applies to
Google it.
Yeah,
I can Google it right now.
But it was it applied to Google. Don't mess with the Google. So, yeah,
that's true. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Google. And I think a lot of, obviously, e-commerce.
Yeah.
Anybody can say that's e-commerce, right? We wouldn't be here for Google. And Google's done a lot of good things for my business. But
Yeah.
it's definitely changed over the years. And I'm not I'm not a big fan of some of the things that they do and have done. And but it is what it is. We still spend a ton of money with them, like every other small business. And I think I read somewhere that the average business spends, and this is online ROF, just the average business spends $6,000 a month, I think, on Google. Average small business, maybe it was over a certain size. It can't just be every small business, but or maybe it was a average between the ones that are spending high and low. I don't know, but I heard it was a bigger number than I thought it would be. But you can be fortunate to rank high organically, but most have to advertise in addition. Even if you rank high organically, doesn't mean you don't have to advertise.
Oh yeah,
you still have to advertise. So.
Yeah. I'm on Facebook quite a bit. I don't. I put the podcast up there, the link to the podcast. I've got my other podcast, My First Ride podcast. So I've got pages for those. And
do you do any advertising?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I mean, it's just organic. And,
that's good.
But through this process, I'm watching all the different ads that keep coming up. Donald Miller. We were talking about Donald Miller, and every time I go on Facebook now, it seems like he's got a sponsored Facebook ad on there.
And that's targeted to you because they know where you've been and that you interact with his site. And, right?
Exactly.
So they know that.
Yeah.
So that you visit his Facebook page or whatever it is. Yeah. We don't do a lot with Facebook yet, but we plan to.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think we talked about last time about social's a big thing for us that we need to capitalize on. Our industry's challenging from a social standpoint. Nobody in our industry does a very good job with social because they're window coverings. It's like you're not out shopping for window coverings. It's hard to get people excited about window coverings. I mean, and we don't have a lot of the industry is not driven by new products all the time. Mm-hmm. So social's hard. Socials is a challenge for us. But yeah, and Facebook, I think once we can tie in social, Facebook will make sense for us. Facebook actually is, unless you sell like a real impulse buy product, it's more branding. All the kind of advertising we do is branding, right? You're not going to impulsively buy blinds.
Yeah. That's a purposeful purposeful thing, I guess.
Absolutely. More so than almost any other thing that I can think of to buy. Maybe tires. You buy it when you need it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally, although you might get the idea, oh, that looks good, I might redesign it. You're not just going to see tires on there and say you're going to replace your tires. So maybe a little bit less purpose, but yeah, it's challenging in a lot of ways. And advertising and not being direct response is challenging because to figure out, okay, what's working, attribution, what's really working. When you do radio, I do radio, as we talked about last time, and the attribution on there is very difficult. It's almost like a gut feel kind of thing when you do advertising. But luckily, my gut, I definitely think there's science behind the gut thing because I've got to oversize a bit. But a lot of things in my life have been gut feels, and they've, most of the time I'd say it's served me pretty well. Those decisions I've made a lot of them, including rebuilding the website, which is what we talked about. That was a huge risk.
Yeah.
For sure, for an e-commerce business, and we just coming off our best year ever last year. This year we're going to come in about where we did last year, which is still fantastic considering where we grew. Last year was almost double. We almost doubled the business. From 2018 2020, we were 88% growth. In fact, in Houston, we were honored twice on 2 lists from the Houston Business Journal last month. Well, I take that back. In September, we were honored as the 22nd largest family-owned business in Houston. And then last month, we were honored in the Fast 100, which is the fastest growing companies in Houston. We were number 42 out of 100 in the fastest growing in Houston. We grew from, in 2018 to 2020, we grew 88%.
Wow, congratulations. That's a great thing That's a great kudos to you. I mean, to be on two different spots there. Very cool.
And we were excited. COVID, we talked about last year was when it first started. Really scared for the business because the uncertainty. In January, February, March, we knew everybody. We definitely didn't anticipate the kind of explosion that we had.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just started in April, and then record month April, record month May, June. We were just blowing it away. We couldn't handle the volume. Our vendors couldn't handle the volume. With COVID, the factories were limited in the amount. It was a nightmare from a supply chain thing, which we're seeing this year too. But it was really bad last year when it just took off like that.
So the supply chain, is that any different this year? I mean, because it's in
better.
the news, supply chain, and this is the problem, getting this and that and the other.
It hasn't been too bad. It hasn't been as bad for us than a lot of industries. So it hasn't been that bad. Well, our industry is unique in that there's one company that dominates, and they own about 80% of the industry, both from they own everything for the people, they make the strings for the blind, to the slats for the blind, to actually making the blind. And it's Hunter Douglas. You've probably heard of them before. They're big in the industry, and they've done a good job with the supply aspect because we haven't really seen any outage, any outages. Now they're backed up from a production standpoint because of demand, like everything else. We're having some home improvement stuff. We're doing some stuff at our house. We're taking a wall out, and it took us like 6 months to get anybody out there to do this work. I mean, you've probably heard that, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I recently retired from home and garden shows. Period. I worked for the home and garden shows. The company was based out of Houston up until November of 2019. Then I went to work for the competitor in June of this year, and then I just said, I'm done. I've had enough of home and garden show stuff. But in that process of trying to contact home improvement companies, hot tub companies, and so forth, the remodelers were just slam dunk busy. There was a hot tub company that, a couple of different hot tub companies I talked with, that their supply chain was so messed up that they couldn't get anything. The factory was just about shut down, and they didn't know when it would come back to normal. And then the remodelers, I go for a walk every morning around the house. So I go down the sidewalk and go on the sidewalk behind us. There's a house a few doors down. They're putting in a swimming pool. They started this 6 months ago, and they're hardly done anything. They've got the hole in the ground. They've got
our pool guy was small, and he has a 30 pool waiting list. 30 pools. He builds one at a time. He's small.
Yeah.
Like he built 30. I don't even know if he built 30 in a year before, but yeah, pools are just insane.
Yeah. And I don't know if they can't find workers.
I think it's workers. Yeah.
But I walk by there every morning, and every now and then you'll see one guy out there working. And then I walk by the next day, that guy's gone, and I look over and going, I don't see anything different. So
I think it's just workers anyway. I know, with the construction we were doing, it was the lumber too. In fact, I was just talking today to the contractor that's doing work, and he said lumber's down to $350 for a 2x4, and it was $7.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it ever got that high. That's crazy, huh?
Yeah. A sheet of plywood was up to around, I think, $50 to $55. And I don't know what it has come down. I don't know what it is now, but it was just crazy. I've got a couple of friends that are remodelers, and one guy's building a house for a client, and he's just about to wrap up on it. But here he was in the middle of building this house, and he has to tell the homeowner, the price is going to go up considerably from what we first talked about. And he had no choice just because of the price of the lumber. So
people were paying it, and just kind of like cars, right? People were paying, they say now, luckily I'm not in the market for a car, but when you go to buy a car, that you don't negotiate anymore. It's like you pay it. If you don't want it, I got somebody else that wants it.
I
I don't
know.
like doing business that way. Same thing with the contractors. We had people just flat out tell us like our job was too small. Let's say it was a $5,000 job. We're not doing bids on that right now.
Yep.
Or we wanted some concrete work done, and like, we're not doing anything less than 500 square feet or 1,000 square feet. I can't remember. So it was very frustrating. We ordered new windows for some of our windows in the back. They told us 16 weeks, and we're still waiting.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
it's insane. It's almost like, it's funny because it's like I want it to get back to normal, but I don't want it to get back to normal because there's irrational exuberance. You've heard of that. I mean, I've never seen a time right now that's like this. Like, where's all this money coming from? I know there's the government stimulus, and it's like, I know it's just crazy that the people are out spending as much as they are. If you can't even get bids, I mean, it's not always going to be like this. And so, like I said, I don't want it for my business to go back to normal, but I would kind of like, for me personally, I would like to see this kind of things get back to normal, where you can, if you want work done in your house, you don't have to wait, 2 months and then you really have no negotiation on the bid. It's like take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's frustrating.
Yeah. Well, things go in cycles. Life goes in cycles. Businesses go in cycles. The home building, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. Real estate goes up, down, up, down. Everything goes in cycles, and so we happen to be in one of those cycles where,
like I've never seen. I don't know if we'll ever see anything like this again.
Yeah.
This kind of home buying. We sold our home. I tell you, we sold our home in May. This was not planned when I talked to you. I don't know. It was before. It was in February, and a house came on the market in our neighborhood, and it was in the section that I really liked, and it was it was actually the week of the freeze. So it's like that weekend after the freeze. So
Yeah.
I saw it. We went and looked at it. I kind of make decisions pretty quickly, and so my wife and I said, okay, we'll get it. And we made an offer, and luckily we got it because, like, literally within weeks of that is when it just started going crazy, when the market started going crazy. And anyway, we sold our house in June, and just like everybody else said, we had 50 people look at it in 3 days. We had 8 offers, all over asking price. The top 3, no appraisal, no, no nothing. They paid all the closing costs, everything. And it's funny, it came down to 2 people, and there was one that, most of them, they all wrote me notes, personal notes too, because they said, realtors were saying that helped. And the one person that got it, I found out, they were from the area, and they had kids, that they would go to the elementary school, and they had friends in our section. But the person that bid more than them was from California. So nothing against people from California, but the person that had wrote, and then I said, hey, if you can come up to this price, that was offered before. So we ended up selling it to the person but we sold it for, as a percent, let me see, between 5 and 10% more than we were asking for it. So it was
I'm
nice.
not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. We went on a trip with 5 other couples a few weeks ago. One of the guys is a real estate agent and a mortgage broker, and he was saying this is going to continue on for a while longer.
That's what I heard. I kept thinking it's going to crash, but I guess.
Me too. And I looked on Zillow to find out the value of our home here. I like to choke when I.
Well, what part of the Metroplex are you in? You're in Dallas, right?
Well, I'm in
What
Saxe.
part?
I'm in Saxe.
Where's that?
That is next to Wiley.
Oh yeah.
So it's in between Garland and Wiley.
Yeah.
And nice neighborhoods and whatever. And
Dallas has just gone. That whole area has just gone crazy.
Yes, it has. And when
more
I
so
found
than Houston has, but more so Dallas.
When I found out how much Zillow said that this house is worth, I'm going, ooh, maybe we need to sell it quick. But
then you got to move somewhere.
Exactly.
You got to find a layout, right?
Exactly. So we wouldn't move. My wife.
We're not moving again. We were in the same neighborhood. We literally moved like less than a mile away, so it wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah. What was the move like? Was that a hard move?
It wasn't as bad as when we downsized like 5 years ago and went
Yeah.
from like maybe we downsized, not a half, but fairly substantial downsize. And the reason why we downsized the time my business is to keep my business going.
Uh-huh.
I was 6 years in, and we still really weren't turning a profit after 6 years. People are like, "How could you not turn a profit after 6 years?" But that's we can talk about that if you want. But in 2017 we downsized and went let's see, yeah, about probably 30 between 35 and 40% smaller,
Uh-huh.
and that was hard because you don't realize how much crap you have, right?
Yeah.
You move into a bigger space and then you find a way to fill it up always, but then going down the other direction, oh my gosh, that was really hard. But when we moved this time, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad. We're so close. We could make trips with the small stuff. We had a truck come over and bring it in. The house is bigger than it was before. We didn't move as big as we were before, but we kind of downsized more than I would have liked to at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and so we were able to move kind of in between where we were before and the smaller one. And the reason why we want to stay in the area, I've got a 12-year-old daughter, and I don't want to I wanted to stay in her
Yeah.
same school. So
Yeah.
we're real limited in a larger size house in our neighborhood. So it was like, we got to do it now or wait another 6 years and be in a small house.
Yeah. Yeah. We moved, we lived in Rockwall for a lot of years. And we built a house there in 2000. And the house we moved out of, we increased our square footage like 800, 900 square feet.
Mhm.
And whenever we moved, so we're going into a bigger house. And I put all kinds of junk at the curb of that house that we lived in, the small house. Just tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff
No.
out there. So we get moved into the house in Rockwall, and the garage is full, and I can't get the car in the garage, but yet we used to put the car in the garage at the other house. I'm going, so how did this happen? And then when we moved from Rockwall to here, well, this house is bigger than what was Rockwall. And it was almost that bad. Well, I didn't throw a whole bunch of stuff out. Well, actually, I did. I did. And the garage was full of stuff, and I couldn't get the car in the garage for a long time. So I don't know how that happened, but man.
I've tried to get in the habit of it's been harder. I mean, as I've gotten older, I've learned I can just let stuff go. You know,
Yeah.
I'm okay with giving it away, or if I haven't used it in the last year or two, whatever, it's like, okay, if I need something like that, I could buy it. Or
Yeah.
it's nothing big. It'd be like a tool or something, or something. I mean, not big by meaning expensive, but maybe it takes up a lot of space.
Right.
I'm okay with just getting rid of it. Yeah, if I need that again, I'll buy
Yeah.
it. It's not that big a deal. But yeah, it's crazy how much stuff you acquire.
I know.
You don't need it. And I have Amazon. The funny thing is, it's getting worse every day because I have Amazon delivering something every day. So it's probably more getting, so.
Yeah, I know. My wife is real good friends with Amazon.
Yeah. It's like Christmas to me because I forget what I ordered every day for the most part. I'll come home, there's a box. What did I order? What did I order yesterday or day before? I can't even remember.
Well, let's go back to the website. I'm curious. Have your clients noticed the change in the website?
The funny thing about when you change a website is kind of like changing a store, and that people don't like it.
Yeah.
If you've never been to our site before, then I would have to think that you would prefer it. I mean, it's night and day different.
Yeah.
Okay. It's totally different.
Yeah.
Not say night and day different. It's similar enough from a navigation standpoint that you won't hit it and go. You don't no idea where to go, but it just visually, the content in it is the checkout process, the ordering process is so much better and easier to use and intuitive. Our mobile site, is just, I mean, no comparison at all.
Yeah.
On our old mobile site, you were scrolling. Now it's just like a small page you can buy with super easy. So that was a big emphasis for us.
Yeah.
But
I've been real curious on that.
They tend to do that, like, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm set in my ways too.
Yeah.
I'll be, if I like something, that's the way I like it. Anything, if you get used to it, that's why big sites like Amazon, they make a lot of changes, but they're very subtle.
Yeah.
And so you go back and look at Amazon 5 or 10 years ago, you'd be amazed how much stuff they've changed, but they make little changes, and they test, and then they'll real subtle. So it was, I say that they didn't like it. We didn't do a survey, but I know that I know there were several people that, of course, would say, I liked your other site better. We had some comments from customers. But, so you just have to take that for what it's, I remember with my previous business, it was a website, and it was just a really simple, not even no database, very simple. We upgraded to a new site, and people didn't like it then. They were all upset, so it's like people don't like change.
Yeah, and that's true. Very true.
So true.
I mean,
I don't care how much better it is. It's going to take a while.
I don't remember what your old website looked like, but I've been to the new one here a few times, and it really looks good. I mean, it's very pleasant, eye appealing, and I didn't navigate through there and do much, but just first impressions it really looks good. So
thanks.
Yeah.
Well, because of what we sell being complex, it's not like you go and you see the product, you add it to your cart, right? The big part of the site is you hit it, and then you have a category page like you had a mini site. What are you looking for? Of course, we sell blinds, so it'd be like, okay, I'm looking for wood blinds, and so you'd see a wood blind category page. You click on one of those. Well, the big difference now, or before on our site, you'd see pictures of it, and then you click on a button, and it'd take you to a page that with really no images on it, and you would select, okay, what type of, what are your sizes, and what color do you want, and then what kind of lift type do you want, just in like kind of little drop-down menu things. Well, now, when you hit that page, we've actually, as you configure the blind, it changes. So it's a real So if you make it, if you change the color from white to natural wood, the blind actually changes to natural wood. And this image, you can 360, you can zoom in, zoom out, you can raise and lower it, and you can, as you add options too, you see it visually. So when you add a cordless, you see it visually, or when you we didn't have any of that before. This is all new.
So it sounds kind of, and we were talking about Amazon, it sounds kind of like what Amazon does. Like I ordered a pair of blue jeans from Amazon last week, and they have 15, 18 pictures of the same cut of jean, but just in different fabrics and different colors. And you click on one, and it changes the color on the main picture of the jeans. And so sounds kind of like that's similar to what you're doing. It's
somewhat similar, but it's a lot more like we have like 7 pictures of that product, like a close-up of the slab from the side, from the back, close-up of in a room shot. We have a room shot where you got all those change color at once. So we might have 7 pictures for that.
So how did you get the pictures? I mean, is that something y'all had to do and go take pictures?
We do it. We have our own photo studio, and we have a director of visual media, and he does. He has another person, so we have 2 people, and they do video, all of our video, and all of our photography. It's full time. In fact, I just hired. Right, actually, before the call started, I traded emails we're hiring a contract worker to do photo editing for us because we need more work in that aspect, just like Photoshop editing, and but he does the creation of it. He takes the pictures, and he edits them too, but he needs help. But the funny story about him is he's my brother-in-law, and I hired him with my first business and with the first company I had back in 1990, 1999 that I sold. I hired him, and then he went to Blinds.com after we were acquired. He went to the new Blinds.com, Home Depot, and he worked for them for 7 or 8 years. And then I hired him back 2 years ago. Finally, I pried him back away, and so he's working for me. He's awesome. He's so when you have an internet business, e-commerce business, visual aspect is just so important. People don't read. right?
Yeah.
They look at pictures. In fact, they say a picture's worth. There's a study that says like 200 lines of text or whatever lines of text. One image takes the place of that, and people are going to gravitate toward the image, the visual, right, versus read. And so when you make a site, you always assume people are not going to read. Assume they're not going to read. So guide them visually to where you want them to go.
What about pictures versus video?
Pictures, actually, video, believe it or not, it's important to have, but not nearly as many people interact with a video as they do with visual.
Huh.
I guess that takes another step. I mean, so in other words, like if you were, we would have every step of the way. We don't yet, but every step of the way we'd have a video for it to explain how to, measure, or how to the difference of the different lift types, or just about the blind itself. When you hit the blind, let's tell you about this blind, give you a little spiel why this blind's good. It's about a 7% interaction with a video, so not as big as you would maybe think.
Yeah.
But they're important to have for sure.
Yeah. Wow, that just blows my mind that y'all do all those photographs in house like that, and just the sheer volume of photographs that you've had to do over this period of time.
We have one product, Roman shades, that we have over 1,000 different, and we ordered one of every product in every color and every fold style. So when we did this project for the new site, we have over 10,000 different pictures or different products to take pictures of, and those have to, like this is Roman shades, they have to be steamed, they have to be perfect in the picture. And then once you do the picture, they have to be edited so they look right, because when you're changing the color, we're showing real images, and like Wayfair does too. These are real. We're not just using CGI and overlaying. The problem with you do that is, what if I want to zoom in on and really see the stitching on there? If you use CGI, you can't do that. So we took actual photos.
Wow.
And not just one photo, like from an angle, with it lift, with it closed, with a close-up of the fabric, with it in a room shot. It's a massive amount of work.
Yeah. So in your studio, I guess it's set up like someone's home, living room, bedroom, or whatever. Yeah.
It's a big, I can show it to you. We have our 3D setup too, not 3D, our 360, which has got, it's called Orbit View. It was not cheap, and it sets up and it takes the camera and it'll take a shot every, I can't remember, some crazy amount of photos, and it actually goes around on its own. Actually, no, it doesn't. We have to suspend the blind because there's a table, but that turns, but we put the blind in a frame. We frame out a kind of a window that we put the blind or shade in, and it rotates. And the camera setup takes like a bazillion photos, right? As it's 360. So that's our 360 ability to do that, and then that takes a ton of editing too, of course. But so that's part of our studio. It's too small. In fact, we're outgrowing our current space where we're at now, and because I want a bigger studio. I want to be able to actually have room settings already set up like in a studio. So you'd have like maybe a kitchen built out or a bathroom built out, and actually we can reuse those with different decor for room shot images.
Yeah, so as it is now, you have to set up each room that you want to take a picture of.
And some of that we do use CGI. But you can use CGI for, like, if you're putting a bed or a couch or a kitchen, even though the image is still the real image, you can kind of make that look good, so where you don't have to have a real setting. It looks better when you see these really nice, good, images in online, like the big companies like Wayfair or whatever. The big companies that want these really pretty, kitchen shots and whatnot. You would not believe how expensive those are. I mean, we were just going to do a couple of products, and there's a company in North Carolina, and they have like a 200,000 or 300,000 square foot area where they have all these different rooms set up, and they'll do all kind of different products. Just real nice. Anyway, it's $300,000 for 1 week, a week and a half there.
Wow.
$300,000.
Wow. Gosh.
So we were like, no, we'll do that ourselves. Thank you. Those are the big companies that are doing, that want that kind of photography. And you do video there too. They'll do video there for the big brands that want those just really,
Yeah.
really nice room type images, whether it's decor or appliances or whatever it is.
How far we've come from the days of a Sears catalog.
I know, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, so in the update process, was there anything that made you want to pull your hair out?
Yeah, I've got a really good. The thing about the advantage we have being a small company is big companies. They would have, number one, never gotten what we had got done in 2 years.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to have these committee, meetings about meetings, and we can make decisions really quickly. So, and I've got a really good CTO, so he would meet with marketing. Typically, like marketing and IT don't get along well, right? So, but when you build a website, they have to get along, and you have to. And we have UX, which is front end user interaction, and so you want it to look a certain way, and then the IT guys have to build it the way you want it to look. So there's interaction there. So that can be challenging at times because IT people a lot of times they're not marketing people, so there may be disagreements there. But for the most part, we work well together. It took a lot longer than I thought it would, but after we dove into it, I realized pretty quickly how long it was going to take. We could have built it quicker, but not the way and done it the right way. We did it the right way from the ground up. Time was not an issue. I devoted as much time and resources as my CTO needed, and we'll never have to rebuild it again. Never. It is completely scalable, just like an Amazon. It's completely elastic. It can evolve into whatever we want it to evolve in. My vision is actually for us to be able to sell. I give you an example of, like, with blinds and custom blinds, there's sites out there that you'd say, oh, they probably sell custom blinds. Amazon does, but they do a horrible job of it. You talked about us being similar with your jeans to the color. If Amazon sold custom blinds, and they do, but they don't. They sell them custom, but if you go to look at and buy a custom blind on Amazon and then look at ours, night and day. It's hard for me to describe, but they almost like skewitize. Like when you go into Home Depot and you see that aisle of blinds and they're all pre-made sizes. Those are stock. That's what Amazon sells. They don't sell a fully. If you want a fully customizable, you've got to go sit at a desk with one of their reps and go through books and look at that. Well, that's who we're competing, the true custom blind. So Amazon does not have what we offer. Thank goodness we're in a business that we don't have to compete with Amazon. Now, I'm not. If you don't think that we will one day, then you're being naive. So that's, again, one of the reasons is we built what we call our Blindster 2.0. Our current site is that I wanted to be ready when that happens and have something that they couldn't just copy. They'd either have to buy us or, but yeah, if you go to, like, let's say places you think it was like acehardware.com or Lowe's and Home Depot have it, of course, but that's about it. And the only reason why they have custom blinds is they acquired companies that sold custom blinds. They didn't go build. In fact, if you go to Home Depot and you look at HomeDepot.com, they've got a great e-commerce site, one of the best. I don't know if you ever shop on HomeDepot.com. They've got a great website. We use them a lot for our site. To model them, Wayfair. Go to their custom blind section and you'll be like, wow, this looks completely different. It is completely different. It's run off a completely different platform. That shows you how challenging it is to sell that product online. It's a completely different platform. You'll notice it doesn't look the same. It doesn't function the same. I've heard that they're trying to incorporate both, which would make sense, and they've got plenty of resources to do it, but I'm sure it would take them a lot more people and a lot more time to be able to do what we did. You know what I mean? Because we have that advantage of being a quick mover. We can react and get things done. Now with our current site, if we want to add a new product, before it would take us, it could take several weeks, if not longer. Our competitors, the same thing. I can add a product in an hour.
Wow.
As long as I have the resources, our vendor, or our supplier sends us the information, we can get it up in an hour.
Man, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible.
Wow. Man, very cool. That's awesome. Well, so at this point, in the process, everything's pretty much set and in place, or are you still having to do a lot of work with it as
That's
you're
what
going
people
along?
think. They think, oh, it's done, you're finished. It's ongoing.
It's ongoing.
We actually need to hire. We're an e-commerce business, so we'll continue to make improvements and change. We've got a laundry list of things still. The site we launched wasn't, you heard of MVP, minimum viable product.
Okay,
That's what
yeah.
So we didn't launch an MVP. We launched an MVP plus. We didn't launch with a bare bones minimum, but we launched with knowing that we had a lot more things we wanted to do. Not just from the complex part of our site is not what you see. It's what is on the back end because of how complex this product is to sell. And one product could have an infinite number of prices because so many things affect the price, and in turn, an infinite number of costs too. So calculating the costs on a blind is very challenging because every little thing you do to it has a cost assigned to it. It's not a SKU. SKUs are easy. If you have a SKU, here's the price of the SKU, boom, right? Well, we don't have SKUs in this industry. Everything's made on the fly, including like even the boxes. So I can't tell you how much your shipping would cost because the boxes are custom made depending on how many blinds you order. If you order 2, sometimes they can put one in one box depending on the size. So it's challenging in many ways, but it's a good thing too because not many people can do it. The barrier of entry used to be very little. Now it's extremely high. Not that I'm always thinking about competition and somebody new entering it, but I definitely don't think that you could just happen into this not knowing much about window coverings and just build a site that's going to blow away, what's already out there. It's a challenging business. So
yeah. So you got into it just at the right time.
I did both sorry about that. I did actually. One of my good friends says, "Man, your timing is unbelievable." Because I got in 1999 with my first blinds website, and then sold it, in 2005, and then I had a 5-year non-compete and came back in 2010. And over that, what happened between 2005 and 2010? Can you remember? The economy, the recession,
the big crash.
So I was able to.
The Great Recession.
So when I came back in 2010, the market was on the way up again. So my timing was pretty good. And I will say from 2010 to now, there hasn't been anything like there was, in 2007. We haven't seen any type of that. So not that I'm not, you got to hope for the best, prepare for the worst, right? So I think we're positioned okay, knowing that there will be a correction at some point. Everything, that's what, not to get off on a tangent, but I think a lot of people investing now are putting money into the market or lots of different things, just think it's like you just make money. You put money into the stock market and it goes up and you make money, right? It's easy. It doesn't work that way. If you've been around long enough, it doesn't work that way, right? All these kids a lot of times getting into the market, and pretty much if you put money into the market now, you're going to make money right now, and you have for the past 3-4 years. I mean, you put, especially the last 2, it's just you invested in anything, you're going to most likely be up. But that isn't it's not a sure thing. It's a good portion. It's gambling, and so.
Very cool. Again, it comes back to those cycles. The stock market goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, and just knowing how to ride the cycle, or in your case, following your gut. You've got, I guess, impressions about what you need to do, and you follow those impressions, and it works. So.
And knowing what you do, like knowing my business and being passionate about it, and knowing this industry is very valuable too. In fact, when I got out of it for 5 years, I realized, I'm on this earth to sell blinds. That's what I'm good at. I'm not good at like having a restaurant. I was a kind of part investor. I had a retail business that we kind of turned a lighting business that I bought into in 2007 that I grew the e-commerce side of it, but it still was a majority retail business and had 60 employees. And I mean, my business now is 5 times the size of that business, and I've got 20. Well, we're up to 30 employees, I think now. So
Yeah.
That's what I'm supposed to do, and I know that business, and I know it inside and out, and I know the people in it, I know the key people in it. So I think that's important. You have an idea for something, you got to spend time learning that, either being around people that know that industry, or finding out as much as you can, whether it's covertly or over. Just kind of learning. I found that people. I say that because, like, if you want to be an entrepreneur and find out, you think you found a better way to do something, well, find out as much as you can about that industry first, whether it's through people or you hear so many stories about that, about people starting a business, but then because they were already working for a business and saw a way to do it better, right? So they learned the business, learned the industry, but they said, boy, it would be better if they did this, and they go out and start their own thing, and then they become competitors with the business they work for. I used to have a friend that I was like, I would never hire you. Every company he ever worked for, he started a business, and he was successful in every one of them. And I was like, man, I'd never hire you if you came to work for me. But that would be me if I had. Obviously, I worked for Black & Decker for power tools, but that's the way my mind works. I think is I question everything. I look at something, I was like, why do they do it like that? Well, that doesn't make sense.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I'm, wrong, and a few times I'm right about. So that's just the way my mind works.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to work. It's worked for you.
If it works, yeah, and it's worked for me more times than it hasn't. I'm not saying it hasn't worked for me, and my gut's been wrong, but it's been right more than it's been wrong.
Yeah. Oh, this is awesome. Well, we're coming up on almost an hour, so
yeah, it goes fast.
We probably ought to wrap this up. So, what's and I asked this the last time, but what's the most important thing you want your clients to know about your company?
It's said, a lot of companies say that they care about the customer, and we'll treat you this way, we'll treat you that way. So it's really cliche, and it's hard for me to say, but truly in business, I've felt like that I'm always going to treat people and customers the way that I would be treated. And so to me, if you turn it around and I tell our people, how would you react if you were that customer? Let's say, for example, like you had been a repeat business, and then you had an issue with a product or an order, and you were upset about something, and they wanted credit for something, and because our policy was, or whatever was, and we don't have policies like that, but what would you do with that customer? Is that a reasonable demand to make? Yeah, if I was that customer, I would. Well, you know what? We're going to be reasonable in most cases. And talked about so many businesses don't see the big picture, and they try to micro and make sure they make money on this order, make money on that order. We got to make money on every order. Well, no, you don't. The importance of keeping a customer once you have a customer, far out with customer, you've always got a customer acquisition cost, and it's never zero. It's going to cost you to do everything you can to keep them. And if you just follow that rule and treat people not just the way you want to be treated, just blow them away and then you get somebody that's going to come back to you and tell everybody that you're great. Let's say you piss that person off and you don't do what's right, or maybe that their expectations were, and even if their expectations were beyond what I would say, if we have the chance, if we have an upset customer, we have the chance to win them back and for them to buy any chance, if we want them back. If it's a customer that has unreasonable demands, we'll let them go buy it from a competitor. Right. Do everything we can to keep them, because you're never going to see. If they're unhappy, they're going to tell everybody. You're never going to get their business again, and then they're more likely to tell far more people than if they'd had a good experience. So it's just so many companies don't see the big picture on that, and I try to do. In fact, I do too much probably. That's why I try to stay out of too much customer service, because I'll overpromise stuff. Or like I remember one time I was talking about a customer, and we didn't have a product yet that fit her needs, but I knew it was coming out, so I told her about it, which I should never have done, because it ended up taking this thing went on like a year, and my customer, my GM said, okay, Kyle, you're off the phones. You know, because I want to help everybody, and I'll give people stuff for free all the time because I want to keep them as a customer.
Yeah.
So I think just that. I guess that's the way we treat our people, and it's not just lip service. And a lot of companies say it, but we live it, we do it, and and to me, I couldn't sleep at night without doing the right thing every day. And if I was, I could never do that. I could never do that. I would lose. I'd rather lose money than that. Than treat people wrong and screw people over, I guess, for lack of a better term, or try to just make money off somebody just to make money. I'd rather lose money and feel good about myself.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the guy was talking about something very similar in that he's saying he was talking about his experience of starting several different businesses, buying a business and whatever. And he said his motivation for each one of those times was he was going in it to make a bunch of money. And it wasn't so much about the customer, but he was going to do this so he could make a bunch of money. And it never did work out. And he's a voiceover talent now. He's a voice actor. And he started doing this when he was a school teacher, part-time, and crazy midnight hours. And he got to the point where he could do this full-time. But he said that he started doing it because of the passion he had for doing the work. Now, the money was important. We can't dismiss that, but he wanted to serve the people that he was doing the voiceovers for, just to make sure that they got what they needed, and then the money would come. And sure enough,
absolutely,
it comes.
That's absolutely what he said, and it's interesting. They had that experience before, and so many people do. I'm going to make money. I'm going to make money. Just do the right thing and fill the need that you're trying to fill for that customer, and everything else will fall into place.
Yeah.
It may not. That's why I lost money for 6 years. I knew what I was doing was right, and I was going to keep doing what I was doing, even if I didn't succeed. But eventually we did. It took a long time because of the competitiveness of this industry. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to do sometimes. Just do the right thing, and everything else I feel like will fall into place if it's meant to be. And
exactly.
I could never live with myself just wanting to make money off people. I know so many people can, but I think there's still a lot of good people out there. And really, in the beginning, I talked about this, but I think people found it hard to believe. Is I wanted to prove with Blindster, that you could be in business and not without a sole focus on profits. And so many businesses are solely focused on. I just wanted to have more money in my account at the end of the month than I did at the beginning. And if I did the right thing, then I knew there would be, and there was always.
Yeah. Well, cool. I'll tell you a story once we stop the recording about. Well, what's the best way for a prospective client to order from you? Just go to the website.
Yeah, go to the website, Blindster.com, and we have videos and really good visuals content now, so better than we did before. Yeah. We usually don't say if you want to call us, we're available. Everybody here is trained pros. They're not just order takers. They know the products. They can walk you through measuring and installation. We train everybody. We don't just throw people on the phones, like I said. So if you want to reach out to us, you can, but we try to, as an e-commerce business, provide everything there for you so you don't have to call. Because I know when I buy online, I don't want to call. I'm on a website to buy on the website. So we have really good content, but just know that we're there, and there's faces behind the name. So ready to help you. Bet at Blindster.com. So blinds and then ter.com. So well, Kyle, I've really enjoyed our conversation again today. I mean, when we talked a year ago, it was really fascinating to be able to talk with you and visit with you. And so thanks again for taking the time to be a part of the Home Improvement Report podcast. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it. And it's fun to talk to you. I don't feel like we're just chatting, not really. I know. I know. Well, to my listeners, make sure you check out Blindster.com when you need to update your window treatments or when you buy a new home.
So thanks for listening to my conversation with Kyle Cox of Blindster.com. What a great time I had talking with Kyle about the website update and much more. I trust you enjoyed our conversation as much as I enjoyed being able to visit with him. When it's time to update your window treatments in your home, make sure you check out Blindster.com. Thanks for listening to my conversation with Kyle Cox of Blindster.com today. What's coming up next on the Home Improvement Report? I'm constantly searching for new information in the home improvement industry that consumers and contractors will enjoy. Also, I'm working on lining up some fantastic guests that I know you will get some great insight from. And I bet you probably know someone that would be a great guest for the Home Improvement Report, right? Well, let me know a little bit about them and their story. I'm always looking for great stories of business successes, the story behind the story. Check us out on our website, thehomeimprovement.report.com. And of course, you can also tune in to iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. Subscribe to the podcast and listen to the previous episodes of the Home Improvement Report. Contact me if you have any questions regarding today's podcast. I'm Gary Neidert, and you've just experienced the Home Improvement Report podcast. Call me, 972-771-7899. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.